So, you're a low-budget filmmaker and you've written a horror film. You have a location, competent actors, and a great idea. You even watched my previous video on horror movie lighting, so the scene looks moody and great. You want your audience to be really scared, but you don't have a Hollywood budget. Without having a team of professional effects artists, you typically only have two options. 1. Keep your monster in the dark so the audience doesn't see its flaws. Or 2. Settle for an up-close shot of your dollar store mask, which might take the audience completely out of the movie. I watch a ton of low-budget horror films, and the monster is usually the weakest part, and there's a good reason. Us low-budget filmmakers can't afford to have special effects teams on staff applying prosthetics and makeup for 10 hours a day every day. We also can't find actors willing to sit in a makeup chair for 8 hours before filming, especially for the amount we're paying them, which is usually nothing. A traditional horror monster involves months of work and teams of incredibly talented people putting in hours every day to turn actors into monsters. This level of practical effects is far out of reach for the low-budget filmmaker. So how do you save money and time on practical monster effects? 2 words. Silicone masks. These aren't the average masks you buy at a Halloween store. Those are made out of latex and are oversized to fit the average head. They don't allow for any movement and they don't look very realistic. Silicone, on the other hand, looks like real skin, and these masks are made a bit smaller than the average head, so they fit tight enough that you can see your facial movements through the silicone. They're pre-painted so your actors don't have to sit in the makeup chair all day. They're really easy to take on and off, and they look infinitely better and more realistic than anything else I've found for the time and money involved. Now don't get me wrong, these things aren't cheap. I've paid upwards of $1,000 for a single mask, but I've also found masks around $200 used on eBay. I'll put a link in the description to the exact place that I look. These masks can be found online usually for around $500, but in my opinion are the closest thing to Hollywood quality that I have found for an obtainable price. Lots of low-budget filmmakers spend a few thousand on cameras, lenses, lighting, and gear. $500 isn't a lot to ask when you think about how much production value these things can add to your horror films. Add a simple dollar store costume and you have something that looks really convincing on film. And unlike traditional silicone prosthetics, these masks can be used over and over again and will last a long time with a small amount of care. So, if you don't want to invest a few $100s into your effects budget and you're okay with the low-budget face paint look, then by all means, you can still produce some incredible stuff. Some of the very best horror films ever made relied on simple face paint and inexpensive masks. But if you crave a bit more for your new zombie movie and you don't have Greg Nicotero on your film set helping you with your effects, then consider investing a few $100s on a reusable silicone mask and get really close to Hollywood caliber practical effects on a budget.